Alright, welcome to another episode of Fun with Chris. Today we're going to take the Manticore trigger assembly from Tandemkross for the Ruger 1022 rifle, and we are going to assemble it into this Grey Birch Solutions LDR 1022 rifle. So I've already taken off the chassis, and we're going to go through this step by step, including the unboxing. I have been running a Ruger BX trigger pack in this thing pretty much since I got it. Other than the BX, the only thing I've done is this paddle. It's a magazine release. It was made by, starts with an M, and the only M in my brain is Manticore right now, but it wasn't Manticore, Matador Arms. Unfortunately, they're not made anymore. It's a really nice aluminum paddle magazine release, and it's beautiful, and I love it. But the Manticore, as you can see here, comes with a practically identical paddle magazine release, and that makes me a little bit excited because the rest of this is just a Ruger BX trigger pack, and it's not a bad trigger, but it's not a great trigger. This is kind of a great trigger, and it's got a bunch of other goodies. So let's look at it. I have taken this out of the box already, and I took it out of the packaging because I had to play with it. But essentially this is how it comes out of the box. You get the obligatory Allen key. You get the second obligatory Allen key. These are adjustment keys. And then you get the trigger pack itself. Now, I got the solid black, and it comes in a black and red as well. That would not fit this rifle. This rifle's all like aluminum and carbon and blah 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 and black. So I wanted the all black, and that's what I got. I should mention, I went to the Tandemkross booth at SHOT Show back in January, and I spoke with the folks at Tandemkross, and we did a video with them. You can find it on our page, and we talked about it on one of the rifles that they had there, and I was just kind of like really surprised and impressed by it. So I did talk to them after SHOT Show, and they graciously sent us this trigger pack for review. So in the interest of full disclosure, I have not bought this with my own money. I have had this sent to us by Tandemkross for review, but as usual, I'm not beholden to anybody. They're not paying us to do this review, and I'll give you the honest review, but I gotta get it in the rifle first, so let's do that. Okay, we've got, let's put these all aside here. Here's our existing rifle. Oh no, you see the serial number. Oh no. In a 1022, the trigger packs are essentially held in by these two pins here. So I'm going to get rid of both of those pins. And you know what's really neat is I can probably do it with the Allen key that they supplied me. Look at that. It just pushes right out there. There's number one. There's number two. And will wonders never cease, it just pops right out. I haven't cleaned this in a while. You can tell that I haven't cleaned this in a little while. But that's your Ruger BX trigger pack. It looks the same as the standard Ruger trigger pack. It's just the trigger's a little bit nicer. I emphasize a little bit nicer. It's pretty decent if you want a low-cost replacement for your factory trigger pack. I do kind of recommend that. This is a different animal altogether, and if we're comparing the two of them, you can kind of see, first of all, you got a flat trigger shoe compared to the curved trigger shoe. It is adjustable, which the BX trigger is not. You notice, so in order to get your chassis on with your Ruger, you have to set this crossbolt safety dead into the center. Otherwise, you can't pull the chassis off over it. Tandemkross has done away with that by making a lever safety rather than a crossbolt safety, which I think was a rather interesting idea, and we'll see how it feels in the rifle when we do the full review. We have our bolt hold open. One of the biggest eternal complaints of the Ruger 1022 is the fact that their bolt hold opens are just terrible to operate. It's this tiny little rocker lever. This one's even smaller. This is I forget where I got this from, but this is a aftermarket hold open that has the auto bolt release on it. But it's just, they're tiny and they're frustrating to operate. This is a really interesting idea, a full-on lever that you can manipulate pretty easy. So that's going to be interesting to test out as well. But anyway, let's get it in. So make sure that this is in the groove in the trigger housing, and I'm going to set it in. And here's my caveat that I give you guys every time. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not a gunsmith. I'm not particularly good with firearms. And if you're going to copy what I do, you should do so at your own risk, because you might break your gun. And if you do, don't come crying to me, because I'm telling you right now, don't do what I do. Just watch what I do, and then do the right thing on your own. Let's put this in first, if I can see it. There we go. Oh, I got everything lined up. There we go. Our first pin is in. Let's get our second pin in. That just went in way too easily. That actually concerns me a little bit. I guess not really. When you put your chassis on, it's impossible for these to walk out. They kind of sit on the side of the housing. But it is a little looser than it was in my BX. So there's something of note, but no big deal. Easy install. That was not hard at all. So let's see how the chassis goes over top of this thing, because with this Matador Arms paddle, I have to not only set the crossbolt safety in the center, which hopefully I don't have to worry about here, although I'm kind of thinking I'm going to have to worry about that. How is that going to work? Am I going to have to take these right off to get this on? I'm thinking I am. I'm going to have to take this off too. Oh, I'm finding out all kinds of things. I should have read the instructions before I did this. Let's find out together, shall we? Anyway, with this paddle shifter, I have to kind of like press it forward and manipulate it past the chassis. This one's quite a bit narrower than this one, so I might not have to do that with this, but these are going to be interesting. Let's see what happens when I just try to slide it over top. Yeah, so we're going to catch on both of those things. Ho ho ho. Alright, this seems easy enough. That just unscrewed. That unscrewed really easily. I mean, it doesn't look like... Yeah, it tightens on really nice, and oh wow, it stays on when you tighten it. So that's not going to be too much of a concern with it falling apart while you're shooting the gun, I hope. But that comes off super easy, and now we'll be able to slide that over. But I need to find... That's what this is for, I'm willing to bet you. Let me just see the other side of this. Yeah, so it's the same screw on both sides. I wonder if the whole thing will come out when I take the one out. Wouldn't it be funny if I ruined a $400 trigger pack on camera the first time that I tried to install it? Okay, that came out real easy. A little bit of grease in there, that's supposed to be expected. Let's just set that right there. So it still manipulates. Okay, so the whole assembly doesn't come out. Let's see if it'll slip on with only one on it. This particular chassis might. Oh, we might have something here. Then again, we might just be SOL. Oh, we're just it's not going to be able to fit it on. So let's take this side out as well. I'll put it over here so that I know that it's supposed to be on that side. Now that we've dismantled our trigger pack, this should fit on nicely. And I did not have to manipulate that paddle magazine release, which is nice. And what am I getting hung up on here? It was the housing screw, I believe. Yep, it was the housing screw. Ha! Told you it was loose. But now that this chassis is on, you can see that it'll be flush. It won't be able to come out. And that actually fits pretty nice. Although, look at that. That's not encouraging, is it? Let's see if that... I don't like that at all. So either the housing on this trigger pack is just slightly out of spec, or this Grey Birch receiver is slightly out of spec. You know what, I'm going to take this off for a second because I want to compare it now to the BX. Let's put this one back in. That's a significantly tighter fit. So you can see, as I'm putting these pins in on the BX pack, they fit much more snugly. And that is not moving. That's solid. Okay, so let's take them out. And put the Tandemkross back in there. That already is significantly looser. More loose, looser, whatever. And that slides in much, much easier. Or I should say less snugly. And now there's definitely play in there. Let's pause. Let's see if I'm missing any instructions. Tandemkross.com/install. Let's see. Okay, so I actually just realized another feature of this, and I thought that I had done something wrong because I had the safety on, and I noticed I could not charge the rifle. So I took the whole thing apart off camera, put it all back together again, did a function test without this on. It just happened to be in fire, and then I was able, and everything was good. Put the chassis all back together, it just happened to be back in this position. I was like, well, what the hell? So I flipped my safety. All of a sudden I could charge it, and I could dry fire the rifle. And all you rimfire guys out there who are screaming at me right now, please just remember that the Ruger 1022 is designed so that it can be dry fired. So don't be a pissy bedwetter. Anyway, I think that's pretty cool. If it's in the safe position, it even prevents you from charging it. Now, if you charge it and then put it on safe, it still will disengage the trigger. So it acts like a standard safety the way that it's supposed to, but it also prevents you from charging the rifle, and that's new to me and very cool. So function test done. Let's take this off of this little best gun vise. That remains to be seen, a matter of opinion. And let's take a look at this thing. I mean, it looks really smart on the rifle. I think it looks quite nice. And if we're looking at manipulating it, that is maybe a little far ahead, but I mean, they have to work within the parameters of the original design of the rifle. I think that's pretty good. That is useless. Like, you're not manipulating that with your thumb. You're going to manipulate your safety with your index finger, just like you would if it was a cross bolt. To be perfectly well, at least to release the safety, it would be like that. And the paddle is nice. It's maybe a little far forward. Again, I noticed this Matador arms, you know, it comes almost to flush with the trigger guard. And because it extends just a little bit past the trigger guard, yes, it made it a little bit more difficult to get the chassis on and off, but I always found this just super nice for releasing magazines. And this one, I mean, this is nice too. I'm not complaining about that at all. But because they made it as wide and flush with the, at least in width-wise, it's flush with the trigger guard. And because it's set just a little bit far forward, you feel like you got to go forward a little bit more than you do with the Matador arms. But still, really nice. This is novel and amazing. And the trigger is quite nice. I mean, you can do it on this side so you can see a little bit better. It is significantly better and super light. There's still a little bit of travel. I mean, it's definitely not a zero creep trigger. You know, it just is what it is. But this is the BX, and it moves more. Way more. You can see that there. And I'm not going to call this heavy, because the BX trigger is not heavy. This is not as light as it'll go, but it does feel lighter, significantly lighter, than the BX. There's no real wall to speak of before it breaks. It's just kind of like a smooth pre-travel, and then it breaks. And that's perfectly fine with me. Now, let's see if I can... Oh, that's so much nicer. And of course, the Tandemkross has an auto bolt release as well. But to pull the bolt back with my index finger, just pull that lever down, let go of the bolt with my index finger, let go with the thumb, and that holds that open. And I can not release it here, but that's okay. You couldn't really with the standard anyways, but it does have an auto bolt release on this side, and that's nice. This is a good start, good install. Only one thing concerns me, and that is just that little bit of play. And I just don't like it. With the trigger not engaged, there's a lot less, and it's really not a problem. You can feel that loosens up quite a bit more when the trigger is cocked. I'm going to talk to Tandemkross about that. I'm going to see what they have to say about it. Maybe I've done something wrong. Maybe I haven't. Maybe that's just the way that it is. If it is just the way that it is, I'm going to see what my options are for potentially shimming this. And it's only the sideways travel that happens. There's not much forward back to speak of. So there will be a follow-up in regards to that with everybody else. And I'm going to be doing a lot more videos to test this trigger out and see how I like it in the Grey Birch Solutions LDR 22 rifle with a super expensive Vortex Venom on the front. By the way, isn't this nice? This monstrosity up here. I'll swap that out pretty quick too. Anyways, that does it for the Tandemkross Manticore. She's installed and more to come. Thanks for joining me. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.